Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be catching the program. My name is Jeff Morton. You are watching Let's Talk About It. I don't have a guest today to share this time with, but I did want to, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the LifeWave patches that I've been really infatuated with for the last, since probably January. But I want to start the show out by giving you a little history about how I ended up doing all of this in the first place. Let me just say, for those of you, today is Resurrection Sunday. For those of you who celebrate Resurrection Sunday, I hope you have a wonderful day, had a wonderful day, whatever the case may be. I personally celebrate the biblical festivals, which would have happened a little while ago concerning Passover or the Pesach. And then, of course, the unleavened bread, and then first fruits when the Messiah was risen. And, of course, we're in the middle of counting the Omer, which is the 40 days that Messiah was here prior to his leaving. And then, of course, 10 days later, we had the giving of the Holy Spirit, if you will. So I celebrate more of the biblical festivals and certainly celebrate the life, death, and resurrection of Yeshua, who many people call Jesus. I try to give him back his birth name because it means salvation. So I try to bring authenticity to the biblical story. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with today. So I hope you had a great day, and God bless you. I should also mention too that I'm supposed to leave for Israel. Apparently the trip is it's a go. So on May 4th, we board planes and head to Israel. I'm really looking forward to going over there. There's a lot to why I want to go. And, I'm going to try to do a podcast while I'm in Israel. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. So I probably won't do a podcast next week as we prepare. My wife and I prepare for me to leave and be gone for, I think, 12 days. Anyway, today I want to kind of back this whole thing up when we're talking about these LifeWave patches. I want to tell you where all of this started for me. Many of you know that I am a cancer survivor, stage 4. I also had a brain aneurysm in 1998. I was supposed to be neurologically challenged. In fact, they thought I was going to need some type of care for the rest of my life due to the severity of the hemorrhaging that happened in my head. So with that regard, I guess I'm a bit of a miracle. The stage 4 cancer was in my throat, squamous cell carcinoma, interior of the throat. It was an awful time. Okay, let's just say that it was an awful time. However, they found the cancer. They didn't realize they found it, but during the pathology report that came back, they found that it was in my tonsils. Of course, all of that was removed. Almost all of my lymph nodes on the right side of my face are gone now. So what happened to me was when I was diagnosed, I started, people who knew me well started sending me all these cures and remedies and things from all across the world, literally. I had one guy, he sent to me this thing here. I'm going to show you what it is. It's called Tahibo tea. And this is tree bark. Anyway, there's a lot of medicinal properties in this. Really, it boosts your immune system. So I started doing the Tahibo tea. I also went to a completely raw diet. I didn't eat any cooked foods. I had a fish every once in a while. But I went to plants, a plant-based everything. I remember putting plants and herbs into the Vitamix, mixing it up until it became a soup, and that's what I would eat. Then when I had the surgery, of course, I couldn't eat anything because it was brutal. But I didn't go back to eating, 3 square meals a day. I stayed on this track of eating healthy foods, organic foods and whatnot. And I started doing the juicing, everything. Anyway, my immune system went through the roof. I remember when I went back to the hospital, I had 70 staples from here all the way down and under my neck. When I went back to the doctors to have those staples removed, I had to drip tubes and just stuff. He was surprised because the skin had already grown over the staples. In fact, he had to numb me up in order to pull the staples out. And of course, I was bleeding and So that triggers something in Jeff Morton about how the body works. Everybody was telling me you have to boost your immune system. And so I did all of those things, but I started getting curious about, these people were sending me plant-based remedies, herbal concoctions to help me. And I noticed one thing about a lot of the stuff that was being sent to me, it all grew out of the ground. I started a website called Dirt Is Not Dirty to that effect, because I realized the plants and things that were helping me grew out of dirt. And of course, being a biblical person, I give credit to everything to the God of Israel and and the biblical story. So I began to get fascinated with how certain things are put into this earth specifically for us. Somebody introduced me to a website called God's Pharmacy. And as I was looking at God's Pharmacy, it was talking about how fruits and vegetables mimicked certain parts of our vital organs. For example, the brain, walnuts, tomatoes, the heart, 4 chambers, grapes and avocados having to do with the womb, celery and rhubarb having to do with bone structure. And I just become fascinated. I began to get fascinated with how everything is kind of put together in the biblical framework. So this all started for me with the cancer and all of the different people that started sending me things. I remember a person sent me a video, and I'm going to play that video, but it was with Dr. Emoto. Hey, you guys, I see you chiming in. Hey, sis, I see that you're there. Somebody sent me a video about Dr. Emoto, who was experimenting with how water changed with frequencies. So I'm going to play this short video here, and I want you to just take a peek at what I was learning about water. Keep in mind, when we're babies, we're 78% water. When we're adults, it's less than that. I think it's like 56 or 60%. Women are a little less. But pay attention to what this video talks about.
Experiment, Dr. Emoto's researchers used a glass of Tokyo tap water, which seems to be unable to form crystals, and performed a test. Participants placed the glass in the center of their circle and sent gratitude to the water. Studying the water under the microscope, they started to see a crystal formation. Increased magnification showed the symmetry of the crystal, revealing how the tap water was transformed by the gratitude sent by the group. The crystal continued to grow, expressing the energies received. The tap water from Tokyo finally produced a beautiful crystal.
It was interesting to see children so completely astonished after they witnessed the difference in Tokyo tap water, before and after they sent the prayer. Their mothers were kind of skeptical before this experiment. But afterwards, they said, "We really have to believe it."
So anyway, watching a lot of those videos from Dr. Emoto, and how water would change, how when you produced an angry sound, the water would change, the crystal would be different. Then I watched another thing where they put sand on a plate, and they produced sound. They gave it frequencies, and the sand started moving and forming shapes. And so I began to think, how does all of this work with the human body, since the body is 70% water? We're 70% water. How does sound affect us? Well, then I started learning about the solfeggio frequencies. I'm just going to read this. Excuse me. Solfeggio frequencies are a set of ancient musical tones believed to have healing and spiritual benefits. They are thought to originate from Gregorian chants and were rediscovered in the 1970s by Dr. Joseph Puleo, who identified 6 core frequencies. These frequencies are said to align with the body's natural energy centers, promoting physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. Of course, I got into bowl therapy and chakras and the meridians, which would have been more in the Western medicine or Chinese Eastern medicine. So chakras and meridians are both concepts related to energy flow within the body, but they come from different traditions. Chakras originate from Indian spiritual traditions, particularly yoga and Ayurveda. I'm not familiar with that word. They are energy centers located along the spine, each associated with different aspects of physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Meridians, on the other hand, come through traditional Chinese medicine. They are pathways thought through which life energy flows, connecting different organs and systems in the body. There are 12 primary meridians, each linked to a specific organ, such as the lung meridian for respiration and the immune function, and the heart meridian, emotions and circulation, so to speak. So as I started learning about those things, and as a believer, I had my skepticism because, we're Christians, we pray and God heals. So some of this stuff could be kind of hokey pokey. So I kind of avoided learning some of this stuff. Well, I don't have those kinds of understandings in the biblical context anymore. There's a certain freedom that I have to where I can kind of look at what other parts of the world were studying long before there was a Christian dialogue or a conversation about Christianity, certainly Chinese medicine. So I began to experience a certain liberation, if you will, about this body and looking at all of those different things that were going on, different modalities and natural remedies and things that were going on all around the world. Again, this guy from India sent me the whole conversation about tree bark tea, which the Tahibo tea, it's full of properties that boost the immune system. I was drinking that when I was going through the whole ordeal called cancer. So as I was looking at all these, I began to really look at alternative medicines. Then I did something, I started studying the pharmaceutical industry, where it came from, how it arose, and I began to realize that there was a thing that happened in the 1930s whereby they started creating synthetic medicines from petrochemicals. And they kind of reshaped the whole medical industry by fostering these synthesized chemicals. We call them modern medicines today. But with those modern medicines, there came all of these side effects. And so I learned about side effects thinking, okay, well, what are the side effects? What causes the side effects? And I found that side effects happen when the medicine that you're taking, the synthetic medicine, the petrochemicals, or however they've concocted this product, when your body rejects part of it, that's where you get the side effects. And then I started realizing that, okay, so we go to the doctors because we had a cold and now we've got bumps all over our body. That's because our body rejected part of that medicine. So we get another prescription. And I've talked to people, folks, who are on 8, 9, 10 different prescriptions. I'm not a medical doctor. And let me just say that right up front. I'm not saying that what I'm going to tell you is going to heal you. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that these pharmaceutical medicines are beneficial. I just started having a problem with the idea of managing my illness as opposed to getting rid of it. So the natural remedies were not necessarily, products that were around for hundreds of years to manage whatever you were sick with. They were getting rid of stuff. And so that's when I started taking a real good look at how the pharmaceutical industry, and dare I say, for profit, wanted you sick. It's kind of like cigarettes. I'll give you that example. How do you keep people addicted to cigarettes? Well, you add a bunch of chemicals to it to keep them addicted. Same thing with sugar. How do you keep the kids buying cereal? Well, you add a bunch of sugar to the product, which is more addictive than heroin, in many of the reports I've read. So now you've got kids addicted to sugar. You've got people addicted to tobacco. And dare I say, you got people addicted to pharmaceuticals, okay? So I started weighing options. I didn't want the cancer to come back, so I started eating differently, started eating better. I didn't eat, I really moved away from eating cooked foods for about probably 6 or 7 months. And so anyway, after about 6 years of having to get checked, I had to get checked for reoccurrence of the cancer every year for 5 years. Well, after the 6th year, they said, you're good. You're good to go. Go away. So that's what I did. So anyway, I started learning that the industry as a whole said, okay, you need to eat 3 square meals a day. You have to have breakfast, you have to have lunch, and you have to have dinner. Well, these were industry standards that produced profits for the companies that were creating and distributing this stuff. So as long as you were eating 3 squares of meals a day, you were good, and they were enriched. And so I started having a problem with how that was. I remember when TV dinners were born. These are highly processed foods. I mean, if you grew up in the ghetto, you know what a TV dinner was. Trust me, because they were cheap, but they were full of processed foods. And so, as long as you were eating the processed foods that didn't go bad, these companies were being enriched. And even now, there's a whole nother conversation that I could have about the industry that, in my opinion, manages our sickness. I don't want to be sick, and I don't want it to be managed. I want to get rid of it. That's why I started really pouring into alternative medicinal things, okay? So this whole thing about frequency and sound, and if your body, or if you can sit there and speak into a glass of water and change the way that water behaved, I'm 70% water. What is my speech doing to me? So the fascination to follow Dr. Emoto's experiments, and others I might add, that became so intriguing to me because I began to realize that sound affected my body. Okay, so one day my wife had this really bad pain in her hips, in one of her hips. She actually had a bulge on one of her hips. And it was very painful to the touch. So a friend of mine said, well, have you heard of auricular therapy? I go, well, what's auricular therapy? So she began to explain to me that auricular therapy has to do with pressure points on the ear. And so I thought that was kind of fascinating. She said, when she showed me a picture like this, then she showed me this picture. She said, when you think of the ear, think of a child in the womb, because this is what the appendage we call the ear actually looks like. And of course, if you go back to the other slide, all of the different parts of the body are represented in this earlobe or this ear. So I was fascinated with that. So I went down to, let's see, there. I drove my wife all the way down. We lived up here. This is probably 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. I can't remember. But I drove her down to this friend's house who was having a person come and do this exhibition on auricular therapy. So what she did was she got a hold of my wife and she said, okay, my wife was the first one. There's a room full of people here. We're all here for this demonstration. And my wife was in pain. She didn't want to drive down there. She was really in a lot of pain. So what happened was The lady said, well, come and sit down in the chair. So my wife went and sat down in the chair. And she said, where's your problem? She said, it's my hip. And my wife was really in a lot of pain. I got to stress that because it was very difficult riding her down there. And while we were there, she's sitting there with pain. And the lady goes and she takes one of these beads and she puts it on my wife's ear. Up there where it says hips, there's a hip, knee, toes. She put it on the ear, marking the hip place of the hip. As soon as she put the bead on my wife's ear, the pain in my wife's hip stopped. Just like that. And my wife sat in the chair in front of a room full of people that she didn't know and broke down and started crying. And I was like, that's really interesting. Okay. But her pain stopped immediately. But the auricular therapy is a therapy. It's something you have to do. It's kind of like acupuncture. They put the titanium beads on there because they stick to the ear. She came home with several of these beads in her ear, and she didn't have this pain. We later, my wife was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and we're working on that today. But blew my mind. How can the ear have all of these different pressure points? Something else I want to make sure I mention is when it was my turn to sit in the chair, I wear these ball caps. I wear them like clothes, okay? So it was my turn to sit in the chair. And I watched ladies, different people went and sat up in the chair, and there was, everybody had something occur. Well, when I went and sat down at the chair, she looked into my ear and she goes, when did you have brain surgery? I said, excuse me, how did you know I had brain surgery? So she's looking at my ear and she said, there's a part of your ear that has a discoloration in it. I'm trying to see which one it was here. That tells me you had brain surgery. And of course, my mouth dropped. I was speechless. Anyway, I actually had the lady come up to my home. We had a whole bunch of people sitting in my living room, and she did this with everybody in the room. One lady in particular, her name is Carol. She had a bent finger. Her finger had been bent like this for years. So Carol got in the chair, lady put the bead on her, and her finger straightened up just like that. She was blown away. So anyway, the person that was doing the demonstration for us, she had some issues and whatnot. She was difficult to deal with, so we didn't pursue that or her after that. Of course, somebody from the congregation I was going to called her a witch. After I explained this, she called her a witch, which kind of disenfranchised the lady. She didn't want nothing to do with us anymore. But anyway, I was still fascinated because I'm looking at sound, I'm looking at water, and now I'm looking at the ear, thinking, wow, you mean this is just an appendage mapping out the human body? The ear is actually below the surface. And it just started opening up doors to me exploring this body even more so. I just got fascinated because there was so much out there that was available for me to learn or to tap into that I had no knowledge about because we went to the doctors, we got medication, we went home. That's kind of how it worked. Or we go to the doctors and something's bad and they cut it out. And that's how it works. And that's the way I knew medicine. It's kind of like being a Christian. You get to know Jesus, and when you die, you're going to go to heaven. Well, that's all turned on its head now for me because I follow more of a biblical blueprint on that story, not necessarily a Christian one. Same thing was beginning to happen with how I saw my own body or the human body, and I started giving God a different kind of credit for what he created. I remember a person from Israel, he spoke, his name was Israel Strafansky. He came to our congregation, and he was part of the team that when they had, during the Intifada, where they were blowing up Israelis left and right, he would be part of the crew that would go and find the body parts that were blown all over the place and try to identify the person so that the families could have closure. Now, I know that's morbid and gruesome, but that's what they dealt with. He said he as he picked up different body parts and things, and bear in mind, can be a little gruesome, but he began to see the intricacy of how the body worked and how it was all put together. And he became, as a teenager, he got fascinated with how the body was put together from collecting these parts and trying to identify the family members. He went on to create an entire thing whereby a company over in Israel, where this is what they do. And the ideal is to put the environment where the explosion happened back to order real quick so that people can move on with their lives and get through the trauma. And this was a very difficult video that he presented to us. He asked us to close our eyes and think about what we would see in a bomb blast after the aftermath. And so everybody, we close our eyes, and he said, just visualize it. And then when he came back, he said, okay, now tell me, what did you see in your mind? And everything that was given, every answer that was given was really abstract. It was, well, I see fire and I see death. Then he showed us a film of what you actually see. And it was very difficult to watch. But anyway, the human body is amazing. My body's amazing. We take better care of our car than we do our bodies. Well, I don't want the cancer to come back. I have never gone back to drinking. I've never gone back to smoking. I haven't smoked a cigarette in decades. Of course, there was a time in my life when I threw my world away and became drug addicted. All of that stuff went away when I started really pouring myself into the biblical story that I now herald today in my life. So, back to the body. The auricular therapy. Now, let me just read to you what auricular therapy is. Auricular therapy, also known as auriculotherapy or ear acupuncture, is a form of alternative medicine that involves stimulating specific points on the ear to treat various health conditions. It is based on the idea that the ear represents a microsystem of the entire body, meaning that different points on the ear correspond to different organs and functions. Folks, I actually saw it happen. Complete believer. There's no question for me. This therapy was developed by French neurologist Paul Nogier in 1957. He mapped out the ear and proposed that stimulating certain points could help with pain relief, stress reduction, and even addiction treatment. Auricular therapy is often used in traditional Chinese medicine and is sometimes combined with acupuncture. Some practitioners use ear seeds, which is what my wife and I experienced, which are small pellets placed on the ear to provide continuous stimulation. These seeds can be made of materials like gold, silver, or magnets, and are believed to help the conditions such as anxiety, insomnia, and chronic pain. The ear beads that she was putting on our ears were titanium. Fascinating. I'm sitting here seeing what else the human body could do and what other modalities were available. A good friend of mine, he gave me one of these. Okay. Now let me just put this up on the screen. He gave me one of these cards right here. It was called a quantum card. Now I'm going to tell you a story about the quantum card. Okay. And as you can see, I still have mine. I don't know if it's still effective. But this is the size of a credit card. Excuse me. Anyway, I'm going to tell you a story about the quantum card. We went to a demonstration where Dana, my good friend Dana, he was doing the demonstration, and he showed how waving the card over water, just like this, changed the taste of the water. it basically restored the water to its original state. So then they passed the water around. You could certainly taste the difference. Did the same thing with lemons. They would wave this card over cut lemon and then gave everybody a piece of lemon. The first piece was real, you know what lemon tastes like. The second piece wasn't as tangy and it didn't cause your mouth to bunch up just by waving this card. So I did an experiment. I called my son and I said, I want to try something. He was a Coke drinker. I said, go get my wife can attest to this. Go get a can of Coke from your refrigerator. And then I want you to pour half in one glass and half in another glass. And then set the one glass aside. And so he did. And I said, okay, now hold your camera over the glass that's in front of you. And I'm going to wave my card over my camera. So we did. And I said, okay, son, taste it. And he tasted the Coke and he goes, wow, it's all flat. It's tasteless. How did you do that? I said, well, go get the one that we didn't wave the card over. What does it taste like? He said, it tastes like Coke. I said, okay, great. Okay. He said, how did you do that, Dad? Now there's a kicker to the story, but I'm going to get to that in a minute. I did the same thing with another friend of mine. She's a wine drinker. So I said, go get a glass of wine, 2 glasses, pour half in one and half in the other. She did. I said, now hold your camera over the wine. And I waved this card over my camera. And she goes, my goodness, the color's changing. How is that happening? I said, well, I'll tell you in a minute, but go ahead and taste it. She tastes it and she goes, wow, it tastes really good. I said, taste the other one that we didn't do. And she tasted it and she goes, ooh, I can't believe I drank this. This is what I've been drinking because it tastes much better here. Here's the kicker. When I did this experiment with my son, with this card, I was in my living room on my laptop, and he was in Hokkaido, Japan. And I changed the taste of his Coke by waving this card, and it created a frequency thing. I don't know how. It's all quantum technology. I don't understand it, and don't presume to understand it, but it actually did change the Coca-Cola to a tasteless product. The lady who I did this with and waved the card, she was in London, England, and I was on my laptop in Puyallup. She was fascinated and blown away. That really kicked into high gear my study of frequencies. I remember going to a show where the guy said, when you get a hotel key, the little card that you stick in the door, how is it that key, when you stick it in that door to open your door in the hotel, doesn't work on every other door? And he said, that's kind of how quantum technology works. It's programmed into a particular point, and that's where the frequency is going to dial in, similar to cell phones. If I call you, if I'm here and you're in Israel and I call you in Israel, your phone is the only one that's going to ring. That all has to do with the transmission of frequencies. And so the study now has taken on a whole different reality for me. And I remember, part of the process of going through all of this stuff, I came across a product called Life Vantage. I'll just put this up on the screen. My good friend Tamara introduced me to this. And what protanum is, it's synergized herbs put together in order to destroy oxidative stress, which kills the human cells. And so I started doing my research on this, and I thought, well, geez, if I can take plants and they can cause my immune system to go through the roof, what about these herbs? So in doing the herbal medicines using the protanum, I don't feel any different. Nothing's changed. However, I know that I'm slowing down oxidative stress on the cells, and I know that my mitochondria, which is the main activity of a cell, is being rejuvenated. So this product has been something I've been doing for 8 years. I take the NRF2, and there's NRF1, NRF2, and then there's another one, I can't think of it. I don't have them in the room with me. What is it called? Anyway, again, we're talking about synergized herbs that are slowing down the deterioration of your cellular structure. So all of these things are costly. Laying in a hospital bed, dying of cancer or lupus or something, and this is much more expensive in my opinion. But a lot of these products that I'm talking to you about are not allowed on the market. And this is the other thing about the pharmaceutical industry. The FDA controls most drugs. The FTC controls a lot of the natural products, if you will. So wellness products would be a better way to say that. But the Food and Drug Administration, this is a money-making machine. I mean, it was designed to protect people from taking just about any kind of elixir and things that were, bad for you. I can understand the need for it. However, most people don't realize is one of the biggest supporters of the Food and Drug Administration financially is the petrochemical industry. So you have a gigantic conflict of interest. And we, the consumers, are the ones dealing with the side effects and the synthesized medicines and all the different things. And don't get me started on vaccines. That's another conversation. But I'm a person. When the COVID thing came around, I was like, okay, so what are they putting in your arm? Nobody knew. Nobody could tell me. So I started looking for alternative people who knew what they were putting in your arms, and they were all against it. And of course, that conversation was being eliminated from the mainstream media. In fact, you couldn't talk about these alternative things that these doctors were saying, no, don't do this. Doctors were shut down. The same thing happened in the 1930s, by the way. That's another conversation. Anyway, people were being forced into a situation where they had to take these concoctions that nobody knew what they were. So I did not take the vaccinations for COVID, and I never will, because I understand the opposing science is better. Anyway, that's not the heart of my conversation. I'm giving you my personal journey about why I started looking at alternative medicines and different things that work better in the body without the side effects. That was kind of where we started this conversation. And I'm ultimately going to end up talking about the patches, the LifeWave patches, because I've been doing an expose on the patches now since January. I started really getting involved in using the patches. I'm wearing some right now, probably a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. But we're getting to that part of my presentation today. All right, so we've covered the auricular therapy. We've covered the seeds. We've covered the quantum cards. By the way, let me just read what it says about the quantum cards. Quantum frequency cards are small credit card sized tools designed to carry and emit specific energy frequencies. They are often used in holistic wellness practices to promote balance, healing, and personal growth. These cards are infused with various frequencies, which are believed to interact with the body's energy field to support different aspects of well-being. Some quantum frequency cards focus on healing and rejuvenation, supporting the body's natural healing process. That's key. Natural healing process. Don't forget I said natural healing process. Emotional balance, helping with stress relief, relaxation, and manifestation and abundance, encouraging positive energy for success and prosperity, protection from electromagnetic fields, EMFs. Some claim to harmonize or neutralize harmful radiation. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. I did a test on my cell phone, which I don't have up here. I put these stickers on the back of my cell phone. Now, again, Dana Hicks introduced me to this technology as well. What we did is we had a demonstration in our home where we would take the cell phone, put it on a person. And we would have them hold their hands out like this and stand behind them and push their hands down. And they were asked to resist. Let me pull this off the screen so you can see this better. So we had them put their hands out like that. Then I stood behind the person and I pushed their arms down, and their arms went down just like that. So then I took their cell phone off of their body and I put my cell phone on their body. And I said, okay, in their pocket. I said, okay, now do it. Now, mind you, I've got the EMF protection shield on my cell phone. So I had them hold their hands out, stood behind them, and I pushed as hard as I could to push their hands down, and they didn't move. And here's why. When you have a cell phone connected to your body, it's emitting electromagnetic radiation. So what happens is you become like a lightning rod. So if you're in a room like this one full of electronics, all of the radiation being produced by these lights and everything in this room that is plugged in is going right to me. In other words, the byproduct from the radiation is going straight to me. That's why people are having problems with cell phones because of the radiation that they emit. So I wear those protections, and I got to tell you, this product right here, this is the X49. I want to see if you can get that. Man, there's too much glare. Anyway, the X49 does the exact same thing. How come I can't get that to focus? I think because the light's hitting it. Anyway, the X49 patch, I did this test, put the patch on, and same thing. Without the patch, I could push their arms down, piece of cake. With the patch on, couldn't do it. I just did this test a couple of days ago. Anyway, so that little tiny patch serves the same purpose of causing the electromagnetic radiation to pass through your body, not into your body. Now, here's the problem. When the electromagnetic radiation or the waste product from electricity goes into your body, it throws all of your natural frequencies out of balance, okay? So your heart, your kidneys, your liver, everything's not in balance anymore. It's getting thrown into chaos. So that's why these things are being developed, to protect your body from the radiation that's being produced. So I still have my little sticker on the back of my phone, but now I wear the X49 as well. And it does a few other things too. However, I haven't gotten to those yet. So with the quantum cards, all of that stuff, the EMF protection shields, they all started showing me how the body is being affected by whatever's around me. You know, I remember a person saying she sold Melaleuca. We have Melaleuca products in our home. She said, when you wipe down your counters with some of these chemicals, and then you prepare your foods on the counters, the chemicals are going into your food that you use to clean your kitchen cabinets or your countertops. And I started thinking about that. I'm going, my God, what are we putting into our bodies? I went to a demonstration with water, and this was about drinking better water. Anyway, the guy stood in front of the room, and he had a glass, and he put bleach in the glass to where the water in the glass turned yellow because of the discoloration that bleach was causing, okay? Then he put his finger in the glass, and he stirred it in front of the whole room, and the water went back to its original color. And it's like, wow. I mean, he did this in front of the whole room. Well, here's what happens. Chlorine absorbs through the skin like a dry sponge thrown in the water. Chlorine is deadly for the human body. So I learned this. I learned this from my sister's got something here. My doctor brought a radiation detection device that showed me that I'm free from the very, very high radiation. If I'm 2 feet away from my phone while charging, the iPhone 13 was hitting numbers like 600. My friend's old iPhone hitting 400. So she's like, whoa, okay, my sister giving her testimony about how much radiation is actually going in the body. Anyway, with the bleach, he said this. He said, you ever get in a hot tub and there's bleach or a swimming pool? He said, you get out of the pool and you feel relaxed and kind of drowsy and, oh, man, that was so good. He says, what you don't realize is the reason why your exhaustion or your everything's different and you feel this relaxed thing is because your immune system has been in overdrive trying to stop the chlorine that's invading your body from killing you. And that's why you're tired. It's kind of like when you're eating food, you get done eating the food and then you feel tired. It's because your digestive system is going to work. So it's an overdrive digesting your food. So you tend to get a little sleepy or lethargic. So I started thinking, okay, so the bleach invading the human body when you're in a swimming pool or in a hot tub is actually killing you. Your immune system is trying to keep you alive. Well, you know, I don't know if that was his pitch, but I can say with absolute certainty, I've been in hot tubs full of bleach, and I've gotten out of those hot tubs feeling like, oh, I'm so relaxed and I'm ready to go to bed. And no, your body's exhausted because it was protecting you from the invading chlorine that was moving through your skin. It's amazing. Your skin. There's another thing called super patch that a good friend of mine is using, and it has to do with skin. And I in fact, I have some of her products right here. These are all done through network marketing. I chose to go with the LifeWave for no other reason than I just was studying the LifeWave products. Anyway, this here is a patch that you put on your skin, and it affects your skin. I can't tell you what it does exactly, but I'm really starting to love the technology. So now I'm going to kind of close out by saying this. I have poured my life into the LifeWave patches. I have friends that have signed up under me through the way this is marketed. I've made close to $500 because they've signed up, but I'm hearing their testimonies. I have a very good friend of mine. She had a rash and she wasn't sleeping. She purchased the patches and her rash went away and she's sleeping better. I hear the sleeping better from everybody. Her husband has headaches. He has a stenosis, a problem in his neck. He's wearing the patches. So last I know, he's having daily headaches until she started patching him up. Now, I haven't heard from her several days later how he's doing, but the first day he had no headache for that day and through that night. And this is something I didn't know, that my good friend Dave was having these problems, but those headaches have subsided. I don't have a report to tell you if that's still the case. I'm growing my hair back. I take my hat off and show you, but my bald spot has got peach fuzz growing in on it. And I've been using these patches for a couple of months. I'm going to show you a video here. It's a quick video about the inventor of the patches. His name is David Smith. And I want you to this is a short video, just take a listen.
It is an absolute blessing and a gift that LifeWave has not only survived as a company these past 20 years, but thrived and grown as well. From our humble beginnings in a small home office in Beaufort, Georgia, to multiple offices in the United States, Ireland, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, and South Korea, LifeWave has reached millions of people, bringing the gift of healing with light. LifeWave is a story that it should inspire all of us for the purpose of bringing out the greatness that resides inside each one of us. My dream to heal people with light was originally met with ridicule and skepticism. Yet, here we are today, manufacturing more than 20 million patches each and every month. I would like you to remember that when thinking about your own dreams, for with enough patience, perseverance, persistence, you can accomplish tomorrow what seems impossible today. Over the last 20 years, we have evolved as a business, and I am more excited about the future than ever before. LifeWave today is a health technology company, but as we continue to innovate and expand, we will unveil solutions to some of the most important challenges we face in everyday life. These new inventions and products will empower you to have a better life and freedom to live the life you want to. Thank you for being a part of the LifeWave community, and may God bless you and guide you on your own journey, living long and living well.
Okay, so with the LifeWave products, I'm going to tell you something that happened. I had been for about a year working on understanding AO scan, which I think is freaking amazing. This is all having to do with frequency as well. You do a scan and you're really dealing with your emotions. And I found out that your emotions are kind of like the catalyst for a lot of the sicknesses that we have. How we deal with the world around us affects us in the same way the water affects us when we have negative feelings. Dr. Emoto has gone extensive stuff about all of this and how water, you change the dynamic of water by your emotions, by loud sounds, all kinds of things are going on in your body when you're distorting sound or when your emotions are out of balance. The problem for me with the AO scan, which is a product produced by Solex LLC, is it's really complicated for me. I'm pretty busy. I don't have a lot of time to study this, but some of the stuff that I know people are being healed from is mind blowing. So again, I am focused on the frequency aspect of healing in the same way that Tesla and even Einstein said one day all medicines are going to be based on frequencies. I kind of understand that technology now. I understand where all that's going, but the Solex stuff I think is amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. When you scan somebody and they can point out and the scan points out their history, their emotional makeup, and things that are wrong in their body is all pops up on the screen, and you send the person the report, and then you start working on putting those things back into balance. This is something that I think if you're a practitioner and you're doing this kind of thing for people, this would be a great tool. And I love it. I just found that the Solex was just too complicated for me. I support it, I would promote it, and I would recommend it to anybody listening to me. My good friend Elizabeth Smatlack, who has put together a whole litany of website on her website. It's I don't have it at the top of my mind, but she's really kind of pressed into this, and she's seeing a lot of success with a lot of people, and she uses several different modalities based on the AO scan. I absolutely encourage you to check it out. It's produced by Solex, Solex LLC. But for me, when I started doing a deep dive on the patches, and my good friend Cammie Brechto, we do there's a Zoom call every Monday and Tuesday nights, where they kind of go through the process. When I started looking at this alternative thing, because the Solex was just too complicated, and I got a pretty busy job, and I do the podcast. I got a lot of things going on. Taking the time out to learn a lot of the processes that are offered through the AO scan just got to be cumbersome. I couldn't do it. So I thought, well, let me check out the patches. I started hearing all these people in a particular network group that I'm involved in having all of these positive results. Of course, I went and looked on the internet. I saw all the negative stuff. I seen all the scam stuff. I seen all of the things that are in the internet, but I started seeing the testimonies of people who weren't dealing with fast growing cells. We commonly call it cancer. I started seeing one guy had his daughter who had a brain issue. She was improving. There's a person named Joy who had a traumatic brain injury. gone. I started seeing testimonies that were amazing, and I talked to several people. So I decided I'm going to jump all in on the LifeWave patches. So you can see on the bottom of the screen, Carol has started sending my website. I encourage you to come and check out what these patches are, and just do it with an open mind, because I put these on my grandson 2 days ago. He's got some kind of skin rash, and now that skin rash is going away. I don't know if it's the patches or the medicine, but either way, I put the patches on him. I had my daughter put the patches on him, and it doesn't look anywhere near like it did a couple of days ago. So I don't know. But I have committed to both signing people on to this process, as well as looking at it in terms of revenue, because my God, I'm close to making $500 in 3 weeks just from introducing this product to people. Now, here's the thing. This is what the patch looks like. So I take a shower, I get out, I sit down, I put the patches on the designated areas of my body or where I'm having a problem. And then I go about my business. I wear the patch for 12 hours, then I take it off, and I do it again the next day. Yeah, now, does it cost money to do this? Yes, it costs money to do this. What part of health doesn't cost money? The people are spending thousands of dollars on pharmaceutical drugs. More power to you. I hope they're helping you. People are spending thousands of dollars on dietary programs. More power to you. I hope it helps you. I'm looking at the new technology, the emerging technology that has to do with sound and frequency and light. And this LifeWave thing has me over the top blown away. And I think part of the reason I'm blown away, because I started looking at all these alternative medicines and all these other things, besides going to the doctor and having them cut me up or fill me up with synthetic medicines that have all kinds of side effects. I wanted something else. And so that's why I've committed the rest of 2025 to not only be deeply involved in the LifeWave company and their products, but getting as many people as I possibly can to sign up, because I believe the emerging technology is remarkable. And that's why I have spent most of the month of April talking about the LifeWave products, the simplicity of it, the testimonies, and everything that David Smith just said about a company that's 20 years old. Started out by developing something that would encourage people living in submarines. Didn't have any light, trying to keep them up, as opposed to amphetamines and drugs. And that's how the military used David Smith to bring in his technology. And he started developing how light, a human being's own light, when reflected back into the body, begins to affect the copper peptides, which is another show. I can't really get into that because I'm out of time. That causes something remarkable to take place in your body. Remember, a child cannot develop in the womb without stem cells. So I've done my research on stem cells, and if you could reactivate your own stem cells in your body, why wouldn't you do that? So that's why I've committed my life to the LifeWave patches. You might even get sick of me talking about it. Yes, is it a network marketing company? Yes, I don't really like network marketing companies, but I understand how how these companies are barred from bringing their products to market. I also understand, and I want to be very clear, that there's been some bogus companies out there that have done harm. So I understand. However, I'm using these patches. My hair's starting to grow back. I don't know what else is going on in my body. So I'm excited to keep going. And this will be the last show for the month of April that I do, because I'm getting ready to go to Israel. But please, if you're interested in finding out how to purchase these products, you can join me on the Zoom call, get my email. Carol, do you have time to put my email address across the screen? Contact me. Give it a shot. Open your mind. Spend the money and do this for at least 90 days. Now, I'm going to be going down to Anaheim in October for their convention, but there's a machine that they've produced that's going to hit the markets pretty soon, and it is incredible. And we'll have to talk about that another day. My email is jsmorton@protonmail.com, jsmorton@protonmail.com. If you want to learn how to get these patches, just contact me or call me, 253-448-4777. I'd love to tell you a little bit more about it. I'd love to sign you up so you can give it a shot. And I don't mind making a few dollars as a result of my effort. But I'm absolutely 100% committed to the LifeWave story, their product, and hopefully helping you. So, folks, this is Jeff Morton. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time, and let's talk about it. Bye-bye.